Welcome to the Deep Dive. I'm your host, and today we are tearing into a really massive stack of research. I'm talking 11 different sources.
Yeah, it's a huge pile. I'm your resident expert for today, and looking at everything from Tony Robbins' seminar notes to actual academic papers on professional fencers. It's a lot.
It is. But I was looking through all of this, and I realized something kind of unsettling right off the bat.
Oh, what's that?
Well, the research basically starts with a biological insult.
Right.
It's this concept from the Sindra Kamphoff source. She calls it the 2-million-year-old brain. And honestly, it kind of explains why my average Tuesday feels so stressful.
It's totally true. It sounds a little dusty, right? Like we're just running on really outdated software.
Exactly,
Right.
like Windows 95 in our heads. But here is the thing for everyone listening. According to all these sources, that ancient brain is still completely running the show.
And it has exactly one job description.
Right. It is not designed to make you happy. It's not designed to help you nail a presentation or, win a championship. It is designed exclusively to keep you safe.
It's the saber-toothed tiger detector. We are biologically wired for survival. And what that really means is we are wired for fear. The brain constantly scans your environment for what is wrong, not what is right. It's basically a deficit scanner.
Which is fantastic if you're trying to dodge predators on the savannah 2 million years ago. But it is terrible if you're trying to perform at an elite level today.
Yeah, completely mismatched for modern life.
If you're walking into a high-stakes meeting, your brain is looking for threats like you're literally about to be eaten. So our mission for today's deep dive is pretty clear.
We need to figure out how to override that factory setting.
Exactly. We're going to bridge the gap between just having mental grit, which is kind of a vague buzzword, and actually taking home championship gold. Because as we'll see in the case studies a bit later, physical talent is rarely the deciding factor at the top level.
Everyone at the top is talented. It's really about your mental technology.
I love that phrase from the sources, mental technology, because it reminds us this isn't magic. It's an actual system.
Right. So let's unpack that system. We really need to start with the framework. One of the key sources we have is a summary of the Time to Rise Summit, and it points out this huge mistake that almost everyone makes.
Oh, I know. I make it constantly. When things go wrong, like if business is down or I'm feeling out of shape, I immediately go hunting for a strategy. I just want the how-to guide.
It's the classic tell me what to do syndrome. We think, I need a better business plan or I need a new diet protocol. We look for the strategy first.
Always.
But the Robbins formula, and really the consensus across all these sources, flips this entirely. The order is what matters. It has to be state, then story, then strategy.
State, story, strategy. Okay, so it's catchy.
Yeah.
But practically speaking, usually when I have a problem, I just want the fix. I skip straight to the strategy. Why is doing that wrong?
Well, it's not wrong exactly. It's just really inefficient. Think about it. Have you ever tried to solve a complex problem when you were absolutely furious or terrified?
Yeah, and usually I just end up breaking something or sending an email I deeply regret the next day.
Exactly. That is your state. It's your immediate physical and emotional vibe in that exact moment. If you are in a state of fight or flight, which is that 2-million-year-old brain taking over, your cerebral cortex is literally offline.
You just aren't smart anymore.
You're entirely reactive. So if you try to build a strategy while you're in a state of panic, you are going to build a panic-based strategy.
Wow. So even if someone handed you the winning lottery numbers,
Yeah.
if you're in a state of total angry chaos, you might just throw the ticket away because you literally aren't seeing clearly.
Precisely. You have to hack the state first. Once you fix your state, once you're calm, focused, energized, then you can look at your story.
And the story is the narrative you're telling yourself.
Yeah.
Things like, I'm not smart enough.
Yeah.
Or I always choke under pressure.
Your internal monologue, yeah. If your story is disempowering, the best strategy in the world just won't work because you won't execute it. You'll self-sabotage. You have to align the state and the story before the strategy even stands a chance.
Okay, so step one for anyone listening is we have to hack the state. And the sources talk about this triad to do this instantly. Because this isn't about sitting around waiting to feel better, right?
It's highly active. The three parts of the triad are physiology, focus, and language.
And physiology seems to be the big one here. This connects directly to the source we read regarding the physiology of fearless focus.
Yeah, the core argument there is that changing your body, your posture, your breathing, your movement is actually the fastest way to change your brain chemistry. You can't think your way out of a fear response, but you can move your way out of it.
It's like what we saw in the Time to Rise notes. If you want to change how you feel, change how you move. But I got to be honest, it sounds almost too simple. Like just stand up straight and you'll magically be happy. Is there real biology backing that up?
There is real biology. Think about a person who is deeply depressed. What do they physically look like?
Shoulders slumped, head down, shallow breathing.
Right. And that physical posture actually loops back to the brain and reinforces the signal that says, we are sad. So when you drastically change your posture, chest out, deep breath, head up, you're signaling to that ancient brain that the danger is gone. You're literally hijacking your own nervous system to neutralize the cortisol.
Which brings us to the actual tools. We've got the framework, but how do we do this in real life?
Yeah.
The sources dive pretty deep into NLP, or neuro-linguistic programming.
NLP is fascinating because it isn't interested in why you have a problem. It doesn't care about your past trauma. It's strictly interested in how successful people get results.
It's the study of excellence.
Exactly. It uses a concept called modeling. You find someone who has the exact result you want, and you just copy their mental and physical recipes.
And one of the recipes Tony Robbins talks about in these notes is the difference between an affirmation and an incantation. Now, I used to think these were the exact same thing, just standing in the mirror saying nice things to yourself. And frankly, that always felt a little
woo-woo.
Yeah, a little fake it till you make it. Just a bit silly.
A lot of people feel that way, but the distinction here really matters. An affirmation is usually just spoken words. You stand there and you just say, I am confident. I am happy.
But if your body is slumped over and your voice is flat,
your brain knows you're lying. It creates internal conflict.
Your brain is basically saying, no, we aren't. Look at us. We're a mess.
Right. An incantation, which Robbins has apparently been using since he was 17, involves the entire body. You engage your physiology completely. You shout it. You move with intensity. You physically embody the belief.
So you're aligning your voice and your body.
That intensity is what actually rewires the nervous system. You aren't asking your brain to believe you. You are commanding it.
It's taking that state concept and turning it into a physical ritual.
And speaking of rituals, the hypnotherapy source brought up something really stealthy called anchoring.
Anchoring is a classic technique. It's about associating a physical touch or a sound with a peak emotional state.
Like Pavlov's dogs, but for confidence. Essentially, yeah. Think about a time you felt totally unstoppable. Maybe you won a huge deal at work or you hit the perfect golf shot. In hypnotherapy or NLP, you would relive that moment intensely. Close your eyes, feel it, see it, and right at the peak of that feeling, you do something specific.
Look at the physical trigger.
Exactly. A really common one is just squeezing your thumb and index finger together, or maybe tugging your earlobe.
So you're creating a button on your own body that you can press.
You're creating a neurological shortcut. Later on, when you're about to take a penalty kick or walk onto a stage and you feel that wave of nerves hit, you fire that anchor. You squeeze the finger.
And your nervous system remembers the confidence.
It floods the body with that stored state.
That is wildly useful for the listeners, especially because you can't exactly start shouting incantations in the middle of a quiet, open-plan office.
The thumb squeeze is definitely much more discreet.
The hypnotherapy notes also mentioned this control room visualization. This one felt almost like something out of a sci-fi movie.
Oh, this is a great one for people who tend to feel overwhelmed by their emotions. You just visualize a control panel in your mind, like a massive mixing board in a recording studio. And there are dials for things like anxiety, focus, pain, or confidence.
So you can manually adjust them.
You mentally grab the anxiety dial, which maybe is cranked up to a 9, and you just turn it down to a 3. Then you grab the focus dial and turn it up to a 10.
I love that, because it treats your emotions like data that can be adjusted, rather than just this tidal wave that drowns you. But look, I know what some listeners might be thinking right now. Imaginary control panels, incantations.
Yeah.
And this all just motivational fluff.
Which is a completely fair question. If I heard this without context, I would be skeptical too. But this is where it gets really interesting. We have a source in this stack that is a rigorous academic study on professional male fencers. This isn't motivational speaking. This is hard science.
So break down the fencer study for us. Because fencing is incredibly high speed, right? It requires insane levels of focus.
Incredibly high speed and technical. So the study took 47 professional fencers. They split them into 2 groups. One group did 20 weeks of mindfulness meditation training. Just about 20 minutes, 3 times a week.
And the control group.
They just read books about the human auditory system.
Riveting stuff, I'm sure. So what actually happened after the 20 weeks? Did the meditators just report feeling better?
No, the results were entirely measurable. First, they looked at their chemistry. They measured salivary cortisol.
The stress hormone, the fight or flight juice.
Precisely. It's the exact chemical signature of that 2 million-year-old brain panicking. In the meditation group, those cortisol levels plummeted. But the part that should really dissolve any skepticism was the brain scans. They used this technology called FNIRS.
Functional near-infrared spectroscopy.
Look at you! Yes! It basically maps blood flow in the brain in real time. They found that the fencers who did the mindfulness training had a massive surge of oxygenated blood, specifically in the prefrontal cortex.
And the prefrontal cortex is the executive center, right?
Yeah.
The CEO of the brain.
Right. It's the part that handles logic, decision-making, and emotional control. And the control group, they didn't get that boost at all. So under pressure, the meditators' brains were physically fueling the smart centers, while the control group was left struggling in survival mode.
So it's literally like a muscle at the gym. When you do bicep curls, blood rushes to the arm. When these fencers were under pressure, blood was rushing to the part of the brain responsible for elite focus, rather than the part responsible for panic.
Exactly. It completely validates the whole theory behind mental skills training. It isn't just thinking happy thoughts. It physically changes the blood flow in your brain. It's neuroplasticity in action. If you exercise the brain with mindfulness, it gets physically stronger and more efficient at focusing.
That perfectly backs up everything we were just saying about state and physiology.
Yeah.
It's biological plumbing. It's wild to think that just 20 minutes of breathing can rewire your blood flow.
It really is.
But obviously, sitting calmly in a lab with a brain scanner is one thing. Being 14 minutes behind in the Ironman World Championship is something else entirely.
Yeah, the stakes are slightly higher out there on the lava fields.
And that is where the story of Mirinda Carfrae comes in. This was in the notes on championship mindset, and it honestly reads like a movie script.
It really does. So it's Kona, Hawaii, 2014. The conditions are brutal, the heat, the humidity. Mirinda Carfrae comes off the bike leg of the triathlon, and she is 14 minutes and 30 seconds behind the leader.
In professional racing, that is an eternity. Statistically, it was impossible. No one had ever overcome a deficit that big.
Her story, that internal narrative we talked about, could have easily been, it's over, or I just need to finish the race. But she did something very specific with her focus.
What did she do?
She completely shifted from outcome focus to process focus. If she had focused on the outcome, meaning I need to catch up 14 minutes, she would have panicked. The gap was simply too big. The human brain shuts down when a goal seems mathematically impossible.
So she just stopped looking at the gap entirely.
She ignored it. She used a mental checklist instead. Mechanics, form, stomach check, breathing, foot strike. She just kept relentlessly cycling through that internal checklist. By focusing entirely on the mechanics of the present moment, she drowned out the negative story of the massive deficit.
She occupied her conscious mind with process, and the result.
She ran a marathon course record. 2 hours and 50 minutes, she passed 7 women and won the world championship.
That is just the ultimate power of controlling your focus. It's refusing to let the ancient brain scream that we're losing, and instead forcing the prefrontal cortex to just say, lift the knees, breathe deep.
Exactly. Focus on the next step. And we have another heavy hitter in the sources who used a similar pivot, Serena Williams.
The absolute greatest.
Yes, but even the greats struggle. The Tony Robbins source discusses a period where Serena had actually dropped to rank number 172 after an injury. She was really struggling to find her game. And the intervention there wasn't about tweaking her tennis swing. It was entirely about her state and her story.
The source mentions she was overly focused on expectation.
Right. When you are Serena Williams, the expectation to win every single time is crushing. It creates massive pressure. Every match becomes a referendum on your entire legacy. Robbins coached her to shift from expectation to appreciation.
Appreciation. I have to say, that sounds a little soft for professional tennis, doesn't it? Like, oh, just be glad you're out here on the court.
It sounds soft, but it is deeply strategic. Appreciation literally kills fear. You cannot be truly grateful and truly fearful at the exact same time. They are biologically incompatible states. She started focusing on the joy of the game, the fact that she simply got to play.
The source also mentions a shift from me to we.
This connects to what Robbins calls the art of fulfillment. If it's just about you winning another silver trophy, that gets lonely and highly pressurized. Serena realized her life was really about helping others. Her schools in Africa, her impact on young women.
So it became bigger than tennis.
Paradoxically, taking the pressure off herself and making it about a bigger cause allowed her to win again. She wasn't playing for Serena anymore. She was playing for a movement.
It's amazing how those slight mental shifts completely unlock the physical talent that was just buried under stress. And for our listeners, if you aren't playing Wimbledon, but you just freeze up in a normal meeting, there was a quick, practical tip from Dr. K. Porter in the Cinder Kamphoff source for when you're caught in one of those fixation loops.
Yes, the refocusing technique, it is super simple. If you find yourself staring blankly or feeling frozen under pressure, blink, take 3 deep breaths, and look left to right.
Look left to right, like just scanning the room.
Yeah, precisely. It breaks the tunnel vision. Physically moving your eyes laterally helps disengage that frozen foveal focus, and it resets your spatial awareness. It's another example of changing the physiology to change the mind.
I love that. Blink, breathe, look around. Anyone listening can do that right now at their desk without looking crazy.
Absolutely. It's a fantastic micro reset.
It's interesting you mentioned having a reset because it implies you still have a safety net, a moment to catch your breath. But one of the sources, the hypnotherapy article, talks about a mindset where you remove the safety net entirely. They call it burning the boats.
This is such an intense metaphor. It refers to the Spanish conquistador Hernan Cortés. When he arrived in the New World with his soldiers, he famously ordered them to burn their own ships.
Talk about high stakes. Welcome to the jungle you literally cannot leave.
The message was unmistakable. Retreat is not an option. We either win or we die here. The psychological insight for us today is about the nature of commitment. The source argues that being 99% committed is actually incredibly draining.
Wait, why is 99% worse than 100%? You'd think 99 is pretty solid.
Because at 99%, you are still actively weighing the option of backing out. That 1% of doubt consumes a massive amount of mental RAM. You're constantly looking over your shoulder for the exit, thinking, well, if this gets too hard, I can always just go back.
It's an energy leak.
Exactly. When you burn the boats, when you are 100% committed, the back door is closed. Your brain stops looking for an escape route, and it puts all of its energy into finding a way forward. It forces ultimate resourcefulness.
That is terrifying, but clearly effective. It forces that state of total focus we talked about earlier.
And it connects perfectly to another quote from that same source by Joseph Campbell. He said, "The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek."
Oh, I've heard that one. Classic hero's journey stuff. How does that fit into state management?
It's about facing the exact thing you are avoiding. We usually avoid the cave because our ancient brain is screaming, danger, it's dark in there, don't go. But growth never happens in the safe zone. Mindfulness and these mental tools give us the neurological courage to enter that cave, to face the fear directly rather than numbing out or distracting ourselves.
It seems like all these sources are ultimately pointing to the exact same truth. You have to generate the energy to do this. It doesn't just happen to you.
That is a crucial takeaway from the Time to Rise summary. Energy is a habit. We tend to think energy is just a result of how much sleep we got or how much coffee we drank. But high performers generate energy psychologically. They decide to be energetic. It's an intentional act, not a passive state.
So if we pull all the way back and look at the big picture of this deep dive today, what are we really seeing across all 11 sources?
If we connect the dots, whether it's the SMART goals mentioned in the mental skills training summary, the intense incantations of Tony Robbins, or the mindfulness of those professional fencers, the pattern is identical. It is all about taking conscious control of your internal world so you can influence the external world.
Because most of us tend to live outside in. We let the world dictate how we feel.
Exactly. The traffic is bad, so I'm angry. The market is down, so I'm terrified. That's the survival brain reacting. These elite athletes, these champions, they live inside out. They determine their state, they curate their story, and then they attack the world with their strategy.
And the science proves that doing this actually changes the physical hardware of your brain. You are building a better brain, one that is less reactive and more powerful.
Right. You absolutely do not have to settle for the factory settings of the 2-million-year-old brain. You can upgrade the software whenever you choose.
So for the listener who isn't a professional fencer or isn't playing match point at Wimbledon, but who just has a really high-stakes week coming up at work, what is the immediate move?
I would say start with your physiology. Remember the triad. When you feel that wave of stress hit you, don't try to think your way out of it. Your brain isn't working optimally in that moment anyway. Change your state first. Stand up, take a deep breath, push your shoulders back. Force that oxygen to your prefrontal cortex.
And I'm going to challenge you, yes, you listening right now, to try one of the specific tools we uncovered today. Maybe it's the anchor. Before you walk into that tough meeting, squeeze your thumb and finger and physically recall a moment of total confidence. Or try an incantation in the car on your commute.
even if you feel totally silly doing it. Actually, especially if you feel silly. That resistance is just your old brain trying to keep you quiet and safe.
Don't let the ancient brain run the show.
Success really does leave clues. We just have to be willing to follow them.
Absolutely. And, before we wrap up, I had one final thought about all this neuroplasticity stuff that wasn't explicitly in the sources, but it builds on everything we've talked about.
Oh, yeah. Lay it on me.
We've been talking about the 2 million-year-old brain as a limitation, right? A relic of our ancestors' fears. But what about epigenetics?
Okay, now we're getting deep.
Well, think about it. If our brains were wired by the repeated survival panic of generations past, and we know from the Fencer study that we can physically rewire our own brain's blood flow in just 20 weeks, what happens if we maintain that state management for a lifetime?
You're saying we could pass it on?
Exactly. What if, by consciously upgrading our own mental software today, by choosing focus over fear, we're actually rewriting the genetic baseline for the next generation? We might not just be hacking our own performance. We could literally be evolving the human brain away from that 2 million-year-old fear response entirely.
That is a wild thought. We aren't just managing our state, we're training the hardware of the future.
Something to mull over on your commute. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.
See you next time.